FreightWaves Sonar is the most comprehensive supply chain data engine in the industry. There are tons and tons of unique deliverables that companies are able to leverage to execute from an operations standpoint all the way up to the executive board. And we're here really to talk about leveraging data to bring from an operations or from a transportation position to the executive team and what that can do for an organization. So can you bring us through that?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the big advantages to our data is that it tells you, objectively speaking, what's going on in the aggregated environment around you. This is extremely critical to navigating what's become an extremely volatile environment.
Sure.
So I've got a few examples behind us of this is a very digestible format of understanding what's going on in the aggregated environment. Obviously, we have trucking data, we have maritime data, we have rail data. We have a lot of data, and it's not just transportation-centric data, but it does a very good job of explaining the trends in the overall environment. Behind me, I have the National Truckload Index here, split into two pieces. The big takeaway here is if you're operating in the transportation environment, managing transportation, or perhaps being a provider, you can see clearly the trends in the aggregated rate environment. Spot rates have gone up throughout COVID and come almost all the way back down. In this example here, one of them includes fuel, the other one does not. Two very different stories, and this is critical information to understand when you're trying to relay the rate environment that you're navigating right now. Now, not only do we have rates, but we also have demand data as well. So behind me, we have the Outbound Tender Volume Index. This is a good indicator of showing not just transportation providers or transportation sourcing entities what's going on in the environment, but it's a good macroeconomic indicator of what the world is doing right now. This is a good one, obviously, if you are a transportation provider. You can now see clearly your demand side trends moving a little bit higher here over the last few weeks, but significantly lower than the previous few years. And from a transportation management standpoint, or even a company, you can actually see, okay, what should I expect to be occurring from the demand side in the future? You can now put this and integrate it into your demand forecasts in order to kind of quantify or even just qualify your expectations for the future.
Sure, and a lot of companies will boast benchmarking abilities or rate analysis, and really it stays very much at the rate level. And so a lane by lane, rate by rate comparison is a good to have, but a strategic, overarching market understanding that can be applied from transportation up to the executive board is a massive differentiator.
Yes, and not only, dollar values have become so muddy in terms of interpreting what's going on in the world. We have operational data, transactional data that counts these transactions, and I cannot stress that enough in this type of environment. $2.52 does not mean the same thing as it did 5 years ago. So when you're counting transactions and you're looking at some of this operational data, you're seeing action. You're counting the action that is actually happening.
Sure, absolutely. So that's the strategic side. What about on a more tactical side?
Yeah. Tactically speaking, you want to get a little bit more granular. So it makes, we just talked about all the high level data and metrics that you can look at. Right here, we're looking at spot rate data. And you can do this with all sorts of other data, but this is a good example because it merges a lot of our high-level data that you would see in aggregate with, that operational data with the rate data in this particular view here. So the tender data and a lot of that transactional data that I just talked about, that's embedded in that map. And that allows you to see quickly where the activity is moving. In the space. So, and down here you have your rate data. And in this example, you've got spot rates and contract rates. And you can see quickly at a very granular level what the rates are doing, not just in the right now, but also what they have been doing so you can make a fast, informed decision.
And this helps users validate their spend decision-making up the chain through leadership, right?
Exactly. So it all flows downhill. So the way that I used to do things as an analyst would look at the top and then work my way down to the bottom. This data, of course, really impacts that, operational, in the weeds, in the trenches user.
Sure. Okay. So really, Sonar is a communication tool built to empower users to socialize their supply chain data and really empower the entire organization at the same time.
Yeah, and it gives you an objective source of truth that you can reflect all the way from the bottom up.